was born and raised in South Australia, and then I went to the University of Adelaide to study civil engineering. This was the only engineering school in the state at the time. And after I finished my Bachelor of Engineering degree there in 1972, I worked for a short time for BHP, which is an Australian mining company who sponsored me through university. Then I left to study abroad, having received a scholarship from the University of Manchester in England to study structural engineering. The UK was a pretty popular place to go overseas in the 1970s from Australia. Then after my MSc at the University of Manchester in 1975, I moved to the University of Nottingham, also in England, for my PhD. I had a very enticing offer there and the project sounded exciting, and it was going to be on rectangular hollow sections. Research on circular hollow sections was performed a lot for offshore structures for quite a while already, but manufactured rectangular hollow sections was something really new. And this research was breaking out all over Europe at the time. And it seemed to be on steroids. It was really popular, hot topic. And Nottingham University was the British hub for this research. I was sponsored by CDECT, which is an international association of tube making companies. And I've been associated with that organization ever since. So back then, I remember them as heady, fairly fast-paced times with CDEC meetings all over Europe every few months in different cities. And I met all sorts of players in the industry. In 1976, I remember meeting a very dynamic Dutch researcher called Jaap Waardenier. And I've been collaborating with him ever since in research. So I finished my PhD on rectangular HSS in 1978. And then I started working for a design, fabricate and erect turnkey company in the Midlands of England. I actually loved that job. And I was responsible for bidding and right through to design and site erection of every building. So I was happily working there until my world was turned upside down in 1979 when I received an offer to come to Canada for an interview at the University of Toronto. These were the days before telex or fax, let alone email and Zoom and etc. So somebody actually phoned me from Canada and said there would be an airline ticket waiting for me at the local British Airways office. How exciting. So I had to get my world atlas out to find where Toronto was. So I flew over to Toronto for 4 days and they impressed me because it was summer at the time. So back to the UK to pack up everything. Then I emigrated again to Canada this time, starting at the University of Toronto in January 1980. I'd caught the travel bug over the previous 7 years and didn't plan to stay in Toronto for the long haul, but it turned out to be a very good institution. It attracted excellent students. I had some great colleagues, and it was research focused, which was all to my liking. So after 41 years, I'm still there. There have been temptations elsewhere, but it's been a good place to work. The university ranks in the world's top 20 after all. But I could live without the winters though. The whole link to steel structures probably started when a professor at the University of Adelaide, where I did my bachelor's degree, convinced me to do a final year bachelor's thesis on stresses in welded joints. Up to that time, I was very keen on hydraulics, but he convinced me to do this thesis with him. And I got a prize for the thesis, and the next thing I know, I have an offer to do a master's on the plastic design of bolted steel wide flange connections. Then followed my PhD on welded HSS connections. So you can see that I just unconsciously went further and further down the same steel brick road. and here I am. So HSS research, hollow structural sections, has been my mainstay under all types of loading: static, fatigue, impact, blast, seismic. But I've made excursions into research to some extent on composites and glass. I'd probably have to say it was being awarded a Doctor of Science degree by the University of Nottingham in 2006. And that would probably be my proudest achievement. This degree, to put it in perspective, is what is termed a higher doctorate, and it exists in the British university system and some of the countries in the former British Commonwealth, like Australia as well. So essentially, after 25 or 30 years of continual research post-PhD, one's alma mater might invite you to compile your life's work into a treatise. So you have to write a book on your life's research. Then it gets examined by specialists around the world in your field. So that would be in steel structures in my case, who themselves have these DSc degrees, of course. And they have to decide if one's entire work has sufficient heft. So I must have met the bar, and my DSc was conferred at the beginning of an engineering convocation ceremony at the University of Nottingham, and it was a wonderful homecoming that I remember very well. The code committee seen here is much smaller than in the US. So I've served on AISC technical committees for quite a while, and that's exposed me to a much larger perspective, which I've really enjoyed. And hence, through that, I've received a lot of industry feedback on my research results. And my research is design-oriented, so AISC keeps it very industry relevant. And I'm really impressed that so many experts from industry serve on AISC technical committees, because when you look at other jurisdictions like in Europe, you find the committees really stacked with academics. So one has a very broad perspective by working with AISC technical committees. I suppose apart from technical committees, in non-pandemic times, I've enjoyed AISC conferences as well, like the NASCC. I have to get the second edition of AISC Design Guide 24 finished. Larry Kruth will be very pleased to hear that. I suppose, and then eventually I'll have to phase down my complement of research students at some point to prepare for retirement from the university. But I can't see myself stopping abruptly with my R&D interests. There's always one more code cycle coming up, one more spec cycle. So I'll probably carry on with interest in that area. Well, obviously, I'd like to express my gratitude to AISC for the Lifetime Achievement Award. It's very kind of AISC, because there are a lot of high achievers in industry out there. And it came as a total surprise to me. And I look forward to perhaps being able to celebrate it in person in the future at some future event.